setting up tags. All right. What's going on, people? What's going on? Today I have a very special guest, Shaolin Disciple. Mr. B is in the house here. What's going on, Mr. B? Saying, Kazi, you need to unmute yourself as well, yeah? Mr. B on that telepathic communication. He's saying, Kazi.
Sorry, I was busy there doing two things at the same time. Yes, I feel privileged to be on my cousin's channel, to be honest with you. Congratulations. Well done for having a nice little community here. You know, you built it up nicely. So.
Yeah, I think so. We've got some decent people, amazing people here, man. On Discord, we nearly got 100 members on Discord as well. I've just dropped the link on Discord for people that want to jump in. And today we're just going to be introducing Mr. B, man. So Mr. B is a Shaolin Disciple. He's trained under Shifu Yanzi and Shifu Yanlei, who are quite... Yeah, so tell us about that, cuz.
So obviously, I'm assuming everyone knows about the Shaolin Temple, what it is. But so Shifu Yanzi got sent to the UK in 1998, and he was a monk at the temple for what I think 15, 16 years, and he was like the top guy. So the abbot strategy was to spread the word of Shaolin around the world. And we won't get into the politics of, you know, everything else, but basically he sent out 2 students, one to the US and one to Europe. And Shifu Yanzi was the guy that got sent to Europe, and he got sent to the UK basically. 1998. I was at university at the time, and somehow the universal forces, you know, brought it all together. And he somehow opened the class up right next to where I was staying in Woolwich. I went to a class and then never stopped going. So that was in 1999 when I finally, you know, got around to going to his classes and that. But yeah, so I've been, what, 20 odd years, 20 something years?
20 years, wow, okay, nice. And tell us about Shifu Yanzi. What's he like?
Well, he's, I don't know, just a bloke, normal human being, you know, he's on his journey like everyone else.
That's the thing, when you think Shaolin Monk, like, in my head, it's always like, it's some guy who's just like, totally devoted, he's in the Zen zone, he's just nothing can touch him, he's bulletproof and all that kind of thing that you get.
We all have that, and I'm not even joking. I remember the first day when we were walking in a car park. This was after months or maybe even a couple of years of knowing him, when he tripped over. Yeah, we were walking along, he was chatting to me. He was chatting to me, and then just kind of like just tripped over his foot, and it's like, oh, he's human. But it's like stupid, kind of kid back then, you know. It's like whatever, 20, 21 years old. So I was like, you know, you see a guy with that kind of skill and power, you know, you do have a certain thing. But there were some people that took it to the extreme. I mean, there was people that used to turn up to the classes and ask stupid questions like, you know, I don't know, I can't even remember some of the stupid stuff they come out with. One woman came in, was asking him to teach her Dimmak, you know, teach me the death touch, and she was like on the floor, no joke, she was on the floor like saying, master, teach me. So it's like it's crazy. People are kind of take it a bit to the extreme, but he's just a normal human being. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, cool.
He's on his own journey, he's learning, he's teaching, you know, at the same time. So
and it was in Tufnell Park, wasn't it, where they were set up to, how did he get to set that up, and you know, what was the difficulties that he found around moving to the UK and doing that?
That's a story in itself.
Bruce Lee, for example, when he went over to America, and kind of at the time, I guess that was the 70s. So I guess Shifu Yanzi, when he came over, was sort of Chinese Kung Fu more accepted, or were they still thinking that? I think in America they had the thing where it's like karate was the thing, and then Kung Fu had to turn up. Bruce Lee's like, no, we can defeat karate, and all this kind of stuff happened. But what was it for Shifu Yanzi coming to the UK? Like,
well, Shifu Yanzi got really well received. I mean, he was on the Royal Variety Performance. I remember he was on, I mean, you can look this stuff on YouTube. He was on This Morning with Richard and Judy. He did an amazing performance there of Qigong, where he was like, they were smashing stuff all over him, and they had that doctor on there, and the resident doctor on the This Morning show, whatever. And he was like, oh, I can't explain how his liver should be ruptured and his kidneys should be punctured and his, bones should be broken and blah, blah, blah. So that was pretty cool. So he got very well received when he first came over. That's how we got to build the school, basically. And that the building the school was a whole different drama. I mean, literally was from scratch, from like a small London Underground depot, basically, that had just been abandoned almost. And we took it over, renovated it, built it up. It's crazy. So and it literally is the official Shaolin temple in Europe. So it's the first one to come out. It's pretty
I remember I come there. How many years ago did I? It was like 15, 16 years ago. I come down to the Shaolin Temple in London, and I think when I come down, it must have been quite completed, to be honest. Because when you had you had like the ring, you had all the bags down the end, and then you had the main hall as well, where we were practicing that. What was that one? We had to do that falling move. Rano, welcome to the stream, bro. This is Mr. B, Shaolin Disciple, in the house here with us. We're just chatting about the Shaolin. So that was very interesting. So I went and trained with you guys like years ago when I was younger. I remember showing my what was it, Fusion White Crane. I was bringing out that kind of all these different moves. I was like doing all this, and you lot was just cracking up. But monkey style, Fusion. What do we have? We had the crane, we had the tiger style, we had monkey style. I don't think I did monkey style, but it was mainly based off the crane. But I think Shaolin itself, like, tell us about it, like the different styles and stuff. What's the 70? Is it 72 styles or
72 styles? So if you notice, everything within in fact, within most esoteric arts, not just martial arts, but anything esoteric and old, it tends to center around the number 9. So Shaolin started with 18, then it went to 36, like the 36 chambers, for example, and then 72, which is again double 36. All of these numbers add up to 9. So there's an esoteric aspect to it. So the 72 styles were a set of techniques that were built up over time. This is the legend. Do you know what I'm saying? Was built up over time, and they all involve different aspects of training that you can take on. So, for example, you wouldn't do all 72 styles. Do you understand? You pick 1, maybe 2, maximum 3, I'd say, like to master, because it takes at least 3 years before you can have first level mastered something. Do you know what I'm saying? So you get to that first level of, let's say, black belt. Let's call it black belt for karate purposes, But beyond black belt, now you got your dans. Now you're learning. Now black belt was almost like the beginning level, So it takes 3 years to get there. So let's say, for example, my particular chosen 72 style was steel jacket. So you remember that stuff I used to do where I was beating myself with the stick, and it was all involved like qigong. You're like, basically you bring in energy in, and then you're trying to move it around the body and all of that. That's one 72 style. Then you'd have iron arm, which is a whole nother one. So now I've got to do that for my arm. I've got to train my arm. I've got to beat it. I've got to hit onto the bean bags and to things, then put the medicine on, and I've got to rub it, and I've got to roll it on the. That's a whole nother style. So if I mix the two together, then you start. It's like you're diluting stuff. So they never recommend you do that all at the same time. So you learn a style, and then if you want to learn another one after 3 years, whilst you're mastering of the first one, you can start to learn another one, But imagine how many you're going to have to then concentrate on in order to get to any kind of high level. So this is why you concentrate on 1 or 2, So these 72 styles were the ones that you would imagine. Like I said, the iron jacket one, there's iron leg, iron arm, various animal techniques, etc. So all of these are the 72 styles of Shaolin.
And based off just one of the comments that Fire Ice has dropped, he said, what sort of connection does Shaolin have with fighting? Because there's also, like you said, there's the qigong element, and I guess it's got meditation and stuff like that involved as well. What are the benefits of Shaolin outside of purely for self-defense, do you think?
So I mean, I can see in the chat it says, what is Shaolin? So that's like a fundamental question right there. So if we start with that base point, Shaolin has different mythologies, but it's about 1600 years old. The temple itself is based in Henan province in China, so it's on the top of a mountain, Songshan Mountain, and most people have heard of Zen Buddhism, right? So when you get the Zen Buddhism books and all of the meditation and blah blah blah. So Zen comes from the word, is a Japanese word, yeah? That's what made it famous. But Zen comes from the word Chan, yeah? And Chan Buddhism is, Zen Buddhism is the same thing. It's just a different word. One's the Chinese word, one's the Japanese word. And Chan Buddhism comes from the Shaolin Temple. That's where it was that's where it originated. So Zen Buddhism or Chan Buddhism is from the Shaolin Temple. And this came from the original patriarch of the whole lineage, the beginning guy, yeah, was a guy called Bodhidharma, yeah, of the Shaolin, not the temple was before that, yeah. So the story goes that Bodhidharma came from India with all these secret knowledges and blah, blah, blah. And he saw all these weak monks sitting around who were just praying and all that kind of stuff. And he just said, you guys aren't doing it properly, basically, long story short. And he just walked away from the temple and he went to a cave. I can't remember how many years he stayed in the cave. Again, it probably adds up to 9. So it was like 18 years or something like that. Yeah. Like 1 and 8 adds up to 9. It was something like that. But he stayed in this cave and he had this one guy that kept coming to the cave and saying, you know, please teach me. I want to learn the real teachings. You know what I'm saying? I want to learn real teachings. So in the end, this guy said, I am so in tune with, like, I basically, my body means nothing to me. It's all about the next level for me, that I'm going to chop off my arm. So he chops his arm off to prove himself. And at that point, Bodhidharma comes out of the cave and says, cool, I'll take you as my student. So this is why you'll see a lot of Shaolin monks. The Shaolin monks, for anyone who doesn't know, again, are guys who dress in like the orange uniform, bald head, do you know what I'm saying? And do like, you know, martial arty stuff, yeah? Is why they wear their uniform. They sometimes wear it only over one shoulder. That's out of respect for that guy. And how most people would pray or would give respects in this way, they often do it with just one hand, yeah? Again, out of respect for that guy. So that's why sometimes you see people doing that, yeah? And that's purely and simply because of this dude, yeah? So he's the first student. And then from that point, he taught them movements based on animals, yeah? Or based on various things in nature. And it was all to do with not just sitting there and becoming weak and your body becoming crippled, yeah? But being able to generate chi energy from within the body using Buddhist philosophies as well as the physical side of it. So now we're talking about internal and external, yeah? So if you're too concentrated on the internal, the body becomes weak, yeah? And then you're unable to sit for long periods of time in meditation because your body can't take it, yeah? If you go too far onto the external, then all you're doing is training your muscles and your bones. Well, what about your kidneys and your heart and your lymphatic system and your blood? You understand all these? If I asked a Westerner, how do you train your blood? How do you train your kidneys? You know what I'm saying? If I tell them, how do you train your bicep? They know what they're doing, right? Even if I said the only internal organ realistically that people know how to train is their heart or their lungs, which is running or aerobic exercise. But that doesn't really count. Do you understand what I'm saying? You need to be working on the whole body holistically. So this is where the Shaolin techniques came in, where he brought in this system. And like I said, built on over the years from you know, always 9, 18, 27, 36, you know, all the way up, yeah? These people adding to the techniques. And that's where you get monkey, snake style, you know, all of this is coming from people watching nature or from ancient scriptures or from whatever's, and they're bringing it together. So the initially, it wasn't designed for fighting. It was designed around movement. It's designed around generating chi energy within the body and distributing it apart into different parts of the body for health reasons. But it can also obviously be used for, you know, for striking as well or for power purposes, yeah? As time went on, they were started to become renowned for these techniques. And then obviously, then they would be called on in times of fighting to protect people or to fight wars and blah, blah, blah. And then things started to get political, etc. So that's a longer story. But Shaolin has, like I said, a 15 to 1600 year tradition, yeah? But you have to remember that, for example, Qigong, which is something that you do, is even older than that, you know? So there are techniques that predate. I imagine, well, where did Bodhidharma learn it from, you know? So if he's bringing these techniques, so we can't say that everything originated just in Shaolin. There is knowledge around the world, and this is where we start getting into that, you know, the mythologies of the world. Do you know what I'm saying? Like where you're looking at capoeira, Brazil, for example, you know, where they're doing martial arts there, where did these martial arts come from? They must have come from those people that were brought over as slaves, right? Well, then where did they learn it from? Do you understand? So now we're talking about martial arts in Africa. So the current narrative is a bit weird when it comes to history and where stuff is and how it started. But when it comes to Shaolin, that's the basic story of where it won. And then we can go all the way up to the communist period. And when communist China came in, they basically burnt the temple down, kicked everyone out, and then everyone ran away. And then it got restarted again in the, I think it was the 80s, maybe 80s or 90s. It got restarted, interest in Shaolin and all of that. And then there was another explosion. Bruce Lee came around. People started getting interested in martial arts again. And you know, we are where we are today.
That's brilliant, man. Rhino's got a question for you. He said, can you just turn up to a Shaolin temple, or do you have to go through certain tests? I mean, Rhino, I guess probably best that you get some fitness in before you turn up. And from what I see from the videos and people vlogging over there, it does look quite intense, to be honest. But yeah, I'm going to send it on to Mr. B. I just want to say shout out to Diggs BTW as well, who's over on Twitch. Says, hey, what's up, G? Yo, what's going on, G? Today we've got my cousin here. He is Shaolin master, bro. He's one of them guys that just knows his stuff, man. So we're absolutely blessed to have him on here today, telling us about the difficulties he's faced in Shaolin as well. We're going to get to that, bro. We're going to get to your competitions. We're going to get to all the rest of the stuff. But yeah, bless, man. We just got a nice introduction there to Shaolin. So if you guys want to know more about it, that's right there at the start. So let's move on to Rhino's question, who's asking, could we turn up to a Shaolin temple, or do you have to go through some sort of test? What's the story behind that, guys? How do I get involved?
So, well, first off, I want to clarify that I'm far from a master. Yeah. So let's just clear that one right up. But turning up to Shaolin Temple, anyone can turn up. I mean, are we talking Shaolin Temple in China? In Shaolin Temple in China, that's a whole different thing. Back in the day, it used to be a case of, you know, you have to like sit outside in the snow for 2 days, you know what I'm saying? And they keep opening the door and saying, go away, don't come back. And then they close the door. And if you're still there the next day, go away, come back. And then they close the door. If you're still there, they say, all right, then come in. You know what I mean? Whereas these days, I think you just drop a little envelope of dough. You know what I mean? Pay for your training, your accommodation, and you're all good, bro.
Oh, that's mad. Yeah, tell us about your training experience as well. Like, and then obviously you had your competitions as well. And maybe if, you know, if it's what do you think of it compared to other sort of combat sports? Be interesting.
I think there is a misconception when it comes to martial arts. Yeah, people have often, and I think Bruce Lee was the pioneer of against this concept. But there's a big thing even now that's like, this works, this is shit, this is good, this is rubbish, whatever, all this kind of stuff. Yeah. My one's, you know, the gold, your one's the bronze, you know what I'm saying? Like all of that. So effectively, it's more like what works for you. So your body is 6'2" is not going to be the same as someone who's 5'7". If I said to the 5'7" guy, yeah, keep him on the outside, keep jabbing, blah, blah, blah. That's not your style. You're 5'7". You're always going to be out of reach. Do you understand what I'm saying? So then you start talking about, well, what works for your body? Are you stocky? Can you take, should you be more like stone, or should you be more like wind? Should you be more like fire? Should you be more like water? You know, what's your style? What's you? And it's individual to the person. So Shaolin martial arts and Kung Fu in general, and traditional martial arts in general, are kind of like looked down on these days almost. Do you know what I mean? So MMA is seen as the thing, but MMA is mixed martial arts, right? It's just fighting. All of them are just fighting. It's just down to, because of the dogma, it's like, well, you know, you have to do it this way, and you have to, like, you know, in boxing they say you have to hook and your elbow has to be higher. Do you understand what I'm saying? I've knocked people out with a hook that comes from there. Do you understand? Or comes from a slightly different position because it lands. Yeah. Do you get what I'm saying? Yeah. The important part is the fighting part, is the execution part of it. The looking pretty, the being part of your clan, only doing it my way, or you're doing it different way, you're not part of my clan anymore. That's what holds people back. Ultimately, martial arts is, and this is me quoting Bruce Lee, martial arts is honestly expressing yourself. No lying. Do you know what I'm saying? Don't lie to yourself, don't lie to no one else, just honestly express yourself. And a punch is no longer a punch, and a kick is no longer a kick. It's just an expression. It just, you need to understand that concept. Why I'm coming to that is because then you can execute a front kick in an MMA fight. Do you understand what I'm saying? Whereas before, people would say, oh, you can only low kick, or you're just going to get taken down, or blah, blah, blah. Now we're seeing
calf kicks, for example. Everyone's starting throwing calf kicks recently. Yeah.
Exactly. And how devastating is a calf kick? Whereas before, it's almost like, well, yeah, you can kick my legs as much as you want. If I grab hold of you, this, that, and that's going to happen. Yeah. So there's all of these different things. Well, let's have that competition then. Let's have that art. Is my kicking going to chop your tree down before you get a chance to grab hold of me and squeeze the life out of me or whatever? However that thing works. And that's individual to the person. Do you know what I'm saying?
I get that. So that's I've seen like as well Shaolin, like if you go on YouTube, for example, you got Shifu Yanza, he's had fights, and you've got some cage fighters as well. You had a couple of guys that you used to train with. Was it Anthony Leslie, who was just head kicking everyone dead? Like in the MMA scene, he was doing his BJJ submission wrestling as well. So I can definitely see that he was able to translate and transfer what you guys got. And from our sparring as well, you guys have a unique back kick in the Shaolin style that's just I've never seen before. Not in kickboxing, not in Muay Thai, not in French kickboxing. So it's kind of cool. And then I quite like the philosophy behind it as well. Like when it comes to boxing, for example, if you go to any UK amateur boxing gym, they're always going to, like you said, they're always going to teach you to throw your hook with your arm up like that. Well, if you look at Gennady Golovkin, he'll throw it with an arc down on it. If you look at Sugar Ray Robinson, he throws it from up here, it comes up. And it's just the biomechanics of it. It does vary person to person. I think in boxing, like they tend to teach you that as the basics. So just to get you, this is the efficient way to do it. But then later on, you can kind of, if you can get out of that mold, which is what I've found recently when I've been training away from boxing and not having someone instructing me on the pads, telling me I'll jab, cross, hook, then I can start throwing combos the way I want to do it. And just by recording stuff, putting it online and just looking back at it, I'm like, whoa, like why was I not training like this before? Because you put so much confidence into that system of training. And ultimately, like you said, you're not expressing yourself fully. Do you know what I mean? You move away from what actually could work. That's why people like in the chat, they're like, oh, you use the Nassim Hamed style, use the Nassim Hamed style. I'm like, okay, let me do some Nassim Hamed. I suddenly start trying to impersonate Nassim Hamed and suddenly I'm flowing differently. It's like, wow, the angles opening up are different. The punches can come from different places. The power feels different. Do you know what I mean? So it's one of them. It's an interesting concept. And yeah, I think those kind of, there's some rigidity, well, some of the martial arts are quite rigid. So it's interesting to hear that Shaolin is one of the ones that kind of lets you express yourself. We are good on time for a little bit, so let's chat about your competition experience. Tell us about what happened and how you found it, how you found the training, how you got ready for it.
Competitions are weird, yeah. So I am I don't enjoy sparring, and not because of a fear. It's just like I can't quite release in sparring, yeah. So it's not quite as what I want it to be. And I find that instead in sparring, I just try things out. So I tend to not look so great in sparring. But what I find is that, and I'll come on to competition fighting in a second, is that when I'm in a real fight situation, things work differently, and when I have carried that over into competition fighting is the only time that I have really felt like I'm fighting. So for example, in a real fight, in a real situation, genuinely there is no thought involved. It's very, very slight, subtle thoughts. And if they are, it's almost like everything's slowed down. Yeah. Whereas in competition fighting, it's almost like I'm just too much there. I'm too much, in what we're doing, and it's not quite full. It's you're trying to full, but it's for me anyway. It's just a little bit different. But sometimes in a fight, for example, if someone in a competition fight, someone makes you angry or someone cheats or what, that's when things get you see a little bit more something coming out. But in a real fight, that comes out from day dot. And like I said, there's enough times in my life where it's shown itself to be that, where I don't think of the punch. It's just like the sense of the danger comes, the sense of the opening is there, the sense of whatever is there, and it just comes through. Because of repetition of years of doing and throwing and feeling and whatever, it just comes through. And real fighting is different. It is really different. And if you want to understand what that means, yeah, the closest I would get to it is to say it's not MMA, it's bare knuckle fighting. Watch a little bit of bare knuckle fighting And you'll understand that when you get hit with someone's knuckles, when you know, it's not a flat surface, that's a bobbly surface, and my knuckles are particularly bobbly. Yeah, like if I just tap someone with knuckles, you feel that, right? So if I hit you in the face in MMA, you can take the punch. Do you understand what I'm saying? But if it's the knuckle that's hitting you, that's breaking bone as well. That's a different concept to come out with. So if anyone's ever been punched with a normal fist, you'll understand it's a lot easier to knock someone out and to cut them up. And so when you look at UFC fighters, good MMA fighters, or boxers even, or people who go up in bare knuckle, they don't do as well, right? So the blood, the guts, the realness, the rawness of it is bare knuckle boxing. The closest you're going to get to an all-round anything goes fight is MMA, obviously, yeah? But if you look back on the days of MMA when people weren't wearing gloves and where there wasn't as many rules, you'll find that things worked a little bit differently. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, you know, pulling of hair, or, for example, grabbing onto certain parts of clothes, or, you know, like elbows to the back of the head. And there's so many different things and aspects to fighting, yeah, that make it all fake ultimately, until you get into that real world concept. And when it's real world, it's usually over real quick. Do you know what I'm saying? Like seconds. Do you know what I'm saying? It doesn't last very long. So,
well, yeah, even in those like you get hood fights and stuff on YouTube, but they have rules, don't they? Even they're doing like, maybe they might have boxing gloves, or if they're bare knuckle, they still have them rules, don't they? Ultimately, like, you don't hit them in the groin, you don't poke them in the eyes and all that kind of stuff. I guess in a real fight, it's just a totally different story. Like in my head, I always have it like, if I have a real fight, I'm just gonna stick to my 1-2 and just, if I'm at that range, try and catch them when they're coming in, or just try and keep it at sort of a boxing distance. And then if I need to use my kicks, if I don't have to do it, but kicks, I'm like, man, I could slip, I could trip, something could happen. So I'm just relying on literally my left cross to kind of get me out of that danger quickly, right down the pipe. But I don't know, what's it like when you actually come into the situation? I guess you can't really think about it too much. You just jump in and.
No, so in a real fight situation, yeah, it's guaranteed. This is everything I'm telling you is not my opinion. This is facts now, yeah. It always has a build up, yeah. Even if someone, you know, just walking past you punches you, you get a vibe as you're coming close to them or whatever. There's always something. There's always a beginning bit, yeah. That's the important part, because you can avoid a lot of situations just by being aware of what's going on around you. Do you know what I'm saying? Like for example, women put themselves in a lot of situations, like walking down an alleyway and then saying, well, why can't I? Or why can't I take that shortcut? Why can't I walk across the park? Listen, I'm training martial arts for 20 years, and I wouldn't. Do you understand? Why am I putting myself in that situation? So you've got to start avoiding those situations and stop looking at it like you're right. It's my right to walk across. It's my right to be safe. You have no right to be safe. Do you understand what I'm saying? None of us do. So just be mindful of that firstly. So that beginning bit, avoiding it, moving away, you know, not someone bumps you and thinking, just don't get involved, whatever, all of that precursor, right? Let's say it's gone beyond that for whatever reason. And you're at the point where the confrontation is there. The first and foremost thing is distance. You cannot let someone get within striking distance of you whilst you're in the talking phase. Because if you do, and I've seen it a million times before, there's a lot of sneaky people out there, yeah, who will just spark you straight. You know what I mean? So if you are in that situation, keep your distance. And I've had it, man, this is almost like my catchphrase. If I'm in that confrontational situation and someone steps towards me, I always do the same thing. I put my hand out first, yeah, so that there is at least something there or something there. But it's also passive, because the palms are a passive sign. Knuckles are aggressive, yeah, teeth are aggressive subconsciously. Palms are passive. You know, oh, sorry, mate, or I give up and all of that, yeah. So the palms go out, and I always say, don't come towards me. If you want to talk, we can talk from where you are. You don't need to come towards me to talk, yeah. And if they keep coming, then you know what they want. Don't start second guessing yourself. Your billions of years of evolution are telling you what you need to know. Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. So at that point there, you've gone past the bit where you could have avoided it. Forget avoiding it now. Now you're in that middle phase of trying to kind of avoid it, but being ready. Yeah. Don't think any other way. If you do, you put yourself at a 50% disadvantage straight away. Because at that point there, when I'm looking you in the eye, you know I'm ready. You know that if you want it, I'm on it as well. Yeah. It puts you off. Do you understand what I'm saying? It's much easier to spark someone who doesn't really want it. And you can vibe that. Human beings can do that. We do that with our subconscious. So be mindful of that. Keep your distance. Be strong in what you're doing. This is why martial arts is important, because it gives you the confidence to do that. I know that if something happens, at least I can do something. Yeah. But you can blag it as well. You can bullshit your way around this. Do you know what I'm saying? If you're brave enough to do it, but be aware that, you know, if it does kick off, it's going to kick off. But at that point, if you've kept your distance, you've done your thing, and then the person's at a distance, talk till the cows come home. Diffuse the situation as much as you can, yeah? But if they're advancing towards you, yeah, don't advance towards them, keep your distance. If they advance towards you, you've told them, and they keep doing it, at some point, you're going to have to hit them. Because if you don't, they're just waiting for an opportunity to hit you. And you have to understand that. Don't second guess it. Don't second double where maybe I can talk my way out. If the person's still coming onto you, then it's about timing. Yeah. You let them come, you time it, and you come with the counter. Yeah? Catch them. Yeah. Don't wait.
Okay.
Do not wait. Yeah. Understand? Even if you want to warn them and say, because I've done that before as well. And sometimes I say it loud enough for crowds to hear so that I'll have witnesses. And I say, if you keep coming towards me, I'm going to defend myself. Yeah. So just stay where you are. If you want to talk, talk. If you don't, you know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to fight, then we're going to fight, because I'm going to defend myself. So just stay where you understand? That kind of talk lets people know. Yeah. And then usually it'll be like, oh, you think, all that kind of rubbish. Yeah. So we get to that point, and at that point, you kind of, if you fight, you fight. If you don't, you don't. Done.
Yeah. Not fair enough. So you diffuse it when it's early, and then you're okay. Yo, listen, guys, we are coming to the end of this podcast. Mr. B in the house. Thank you so much for joining us today. We're gonna be continuing actually this conversation very soon, and we'll be jumping into his combat sports experience. Pick up some more about this street fighting as well. I want to know more about that, and then we'll take it from there, guys. Thank you all so much for joining us, Mr. B. Thanks so much for being here, man.
Thank you for having me. Take care, guys.
Take care, everyone. Thank you so much.
Great questions, by the way.
Yes. And for everyone watching tomorrow, thank you all so much as well. Hope you enjoyed the video. Drop some comments in the comment section. Let me know what you guys thought. If you have any other questions that we can answer for next week or the week after, whenever Mr. Beat is available with his busy Shaolin schedule, then we'll jump into it with your questions as well. And thank you all so much. Rhino says, is there different styles of Shaolin? For London teaches different style to different style in Temple in China. We're going to have to pick that one up next week, bro, because we're out of time on this one. And that will be the first question for next week. Thanks so much, guys, for joining us. Catch you guys in the next one. Peace.